Hi, my name is Eitan Benami, and I'd like to welcome you to my Anxiety Bootcamp program for generalized anxiety. This program will guide you through self-treatment of the most common type of anxiety problem. Its symptoms include chronic worry or nervousness regarding many different aspects of life. Some people report a general nervousness without any specific worries, and that's okay too. This program will work with either set of symptoms. You may also have a problem with panic attacks, obsessions and compulsions, or fear of social situations. People with any of these problems almost always suffer from generalized anxiety as well. It's usually what fuels the fire of the other problem. This program will probably be useful to you, but there's a good chance you'll also need a program that's specific to panic, social phobia, or OCD. This program and all the other programs in the Anxiety Bootcamp series are designed to guide you through self-treatment for your problem. It contains a series of audio recordings and workbook files that you can either purchase for download or have shipped to you as a CD. Purchasing it also entitles you to a half-hour live consultation via Skype for the purpose of helping you understand and use the program. It's important to understand that the recordings in this program are short, detailed lectures of about 15 to 25 minutes each. You'll want to spend a week on each one, listening to it several times, perhaps while also looking at the text in the workbook. You won't get much out of this program if you just listen to them once in the car while stuck in traffic. These aren't audiobooks, and the information they contain is very important to your self-treatment. Also, each recording has a set of exercises and log forms to go along with it. You need to use these. Though the information in the recordings is important, it's useless unless you spend time on the exercises. It's a little bit like taking piano lessons. The best book on learning piano won't do you any good if you don't practice. This introduction will give you a good idea of what the programs are like. It contains a simple anxiety management exercise, along with other tools and information. Please feel free to copy this introduction, or even put it on a BitTorrent site. If you know someone who needs help for an anxiety problem, please share this with them. From my perspective, the greater the number of people who know about my programs, the happier I am. So, I'm a clinical social worker with an active psychotherapy practice in Lynbrook, New York. For the last 15 years or so, I've specialized in treating anxiety problems using the effective short-term methods of cognitive behavioral therapy. In 2012, I became aware of some widely advertised, expensive home treatment programs for anxiety problems. I took a look at them, and I was disturbed both by what they contained and by what they didn't contain. These programs, advertised on the internet and radio, were created by people with no professional credentials, no real face-to-face clinical experience treating anxiety problems, and apparently very little scientific knowledge. I decided that I could offer something much better, and so here we are. By the way, I call these programs Anxiety Bootcamp because I consider them basic training for people with anxiety problems. This is more than a cute name. There are plenty of worthless dietary supplements out there, along with programs that claim you can be cured by just listening passively. These may work temporarily for a small number of people who are very sensitive to placebo effects, but they're not reliable. My programs are designed for people who are sick of their painfully difficult anxiety problems and who are willing to work hard to get better. Each program has weekly lessons that explain facts about your problem and describes exercises for you to do. If you do each of the exercises consistently and correctly, to the best of your ability, you are very likely to feel much better by the end of your program. The programs vary in the number of weekly lessons and the exercises they contain, but they average about 12 weeks, with up to an hour of work every day. All of these programs start with a basic anxiety training section that will help most people begin to develop the skills they need to overcome their problem. After you complete basic anxiety training, you'll want to go on to the advanced anxiety training section. Not everyone will benefit from every lesson in the advanced training section, but everyone will benefit from some of them. My motto here is, work smart, work hard, get well. But before I can help you, I have to convince you that I really have something of value here. And that can't just be value in some abstract way. I have to convince you that this program will actually help you personally get over the problems you personally face. If I can help you find a happier, less stressed way of life, then I think my programs are easily worth twice what I charge. If I can't help you, and again I mean you personally, then who cares how much it costs? I think the best way to convince you is to give you a sample exercise that is typical of the kind of things you'll find throughout my programs. It's a freebie that you can actually use. I call this one the happiness exercise. It's one of my originals. You won't find it anywhere else. Are you ready? What I'd like you to do is to think of several people who you'd like to imagine being very, very happy. They can be family members or friends, or they can be anybody else you'd like. The people on your list don't have to be alive, but they shouldn't include someone who you're actually mourning. This exercise works best when your feelings for the person aren't too complicated. If you're having trouble thinking of people you know personally, you can even use fictional characters. Just make sure they're people who you'd like to imagine being very, very happy. Can you think of 2 or 3? So, with your eyes open and without losing contact with the world around you, I'd like you to imagine one of these folks being filled with happiness. Not just a little happiness, but the kind of joy that makes a person practically glow. Imagine them looking at you while smiling from ear to ear. Imagine them so filled with happiness that they're about to start floating off the ground or about to do a silly dance. Think of the most joy you've ever seen or imagined in a person, and then imagine sending it to them as they smile and send it back to you. Take a moment to imagine this. Now, move down your list and imagine sending each person on it the same kind of wonderful joy and delight. Imagine how each person reacts to these feelings and how you feel as the sender. Give yourself a couple of minutes with each imagined person, and then go back to the top of the list and do it again. If you'd like, you can pause the audio file until you're done. How did you feel while you were doing this exercise? Did you smile? Did any of the joy you imagined sending out come back to you? If this exercise worked for you, then try to hang on to a bit of that good feeling. Most people who try this exercise feel an immediate elevation of mood and a small reduction in stress and anxiety. It can also make it easier to deal with chronic pain. These effects, from just one use of the exercise, are temporary and limited. In order to make them more lasting and more effective, it has to be used briefly, many times a day. I like people to do this exercise every time they take a drink of water or have a coffee break. Let's say that every time you take a sip of anything, you get into the habit of briefly doing this exercise. I've included a practice log to make it easier for you to keep track of your work. Logging is important for maintaining consistent, motivated practice. After a few weeks of practice this way, using the exercise will become a habit, and at that point it won't seem to take any effort at all. So, what's going on with this? Why does it work for most people? This exercise taps into a very powerful bonding instinct that links parents and children. We react to our children's smiles in ways that make us more loving and more caring, and to also be less concerned with other demands in the world. Infants go through a period in which they seem to be fascinated by their parents' and other people's smiles. It's likely that most of us first experience this kind of reaction as babes in our mother's arms. Bonding of this type triggers the release of a neurotransmitter hormone in the brain called oxytocin. You may have heard of it in terms of its reproductive functions. It helps to promote sex, induce labor, and later lactation. But there's more to it than that. Deep within the brain, we have two structures called amygdalas, or in Latin, amygdalae. There's one on the left and one on the right. The amygdalas are responsible for triggering our feelings of anxiety, fear, and anger. They send signals to the rest of the brain to watch out for trouble, to turn away, or to fight. They also help us store and retrieve memories that we can use to figure out whether something is threatening. This function may not make us happy, but it's important if we want to stay alive in a dangerous world. Oxytocin reduces this activity. It makes us less wary, more trusting, and more generous. When you do an exercise like the one just given, you're actually affecting your brain chemistry and the function of these areas of the brain. Some of you may be wondering what it means if you didn't have a positive reaction to this exercise. Now, please don't get too worried. There can be many reasons for this. First of all, people naturally vary in their ability to visually imagine things. Some are just better at it than others. Also, you may be depressed. Depression decreases your ability to feel happiness. Severe anxiety can also be a problem. You may find that this exercise works better when you're feeling more relaxed. You may need to do relaxation exercises before you can be successful with this one. Finally, some people don't like this exercise because it seems too simple, even to the point of being disrespectful to them. I've had patients react as if I were ignoring their suffering when I've given them a simple anti-anxiety exercise. Again, this can be part of the irritability that many people experience as a symptom of depression. So, if this exercise didn't work for you, there's still plenty of hope that other exercises that don't involve much visualization will work. This exercise is pretty typical of my work both in face-to-face therapy sessions and in this program. I like simple exercises that most people can do without taking much time out of their too busy days. Still, in order to get results, you have to do the exercises, and they have to be done multiple times a day. This program won't work for you. It gives you exercises that help when you do them for yourself. I'll ask you to remember our motto: work smart, work hard, get well. I strongly believe that this is the best program on the market for self-treatment of generalized anxiety disorder. It works for most people, but not for all. In face-to-face weekly psychotherapy, using well-researched cognitive behavioral protocols, roughly 75% of patients improve. If this program seems too difficult for you, or if you feel too hopeless and helpless, you will probably need medical help. Bite the bullet and make an appointment with a board-certified psychiatrist. Taking medication can be frightening, but it beats having a life limited by anxiety. I also realize that the cost of this program is significant for many people, and that purchasing it can feel like an expensive gamble. Anxious people aren't big fans of gambling, so I've decided to take the gamble out of it. I offer a risk-free, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. If you purchase one of my programs and find that you don't like it or that it's not likely to help you, just tell me so. If you've purchased the download files, I'll refund the full purchase price. No questions asked. If you've purchased the hard copy version, I'll refund the download price, the difference being the cost of printing the physical materials and shipping them. Again, this is a no questions asked policy, I never want to see this method or my name listed with the therapeutic rip-offs that have taken advantage of so many people. No questions asked means no questions asked. Could you ask for better? Now is the time to go to your PDF files or your workbook and begin your homework. You should begin logging your anxiety levels and your practice sessions using the forms in the PDF. This will be important in evaluating your progress as you work through the lessons that follow. Finally, I want to give you my best wishes and ask you to please remember that I love fan mail. Now get to work.